Okay, we gather back again. Last week, you'll remember we had the calling and the sending of the disciples, and they've been sent out 2 by 2. And while they're out, they're healing and curing people, and the word got around, as we heard in today's reading. And then we get the aside of the death of John the Baptist. So it's pretty confronting stuff that we hear this week, and we're reminded that discipleship can be, fairly costly. And we have this Herod who's cast in a pretty poor light. So, yeah, what did you make of it, Annette?
Well, it is pretty sobering, isn't it, after the sending out of the disciples, and it says that they were able to heal and cast out demons. And when you read the words, and the word got around sort of thing, you think, oh, good, people are finding out about the good news about Jesus. And then this is the story that we get, which is very bloody and distressing, and has all sort of politics is involved in it, isn't it? That's and corrupt politics and people's pride and all sorts of dark things. And you're right, it's almost like it's a kind of reminder that, yes, there's being in mission for Jesus in the world and being part of the story of Jesus in the world, but it comes at a cost sometimes, I think. I think that seems to be why this story is told here, because it's a flashback, isn't it? It's something that's already happened. John the Baptist, yeah. And
in a way, the story echoes the death of Jesus. He's imprisoned and executed in a pretty awful way, and then he's risen. So we get the parallels, which I think it's quite a clever thing that Mark does. And there's some other clever things happening, like there's a real justice issue here. Herod has recognised John as being someone who he respected, and he wanted to listen to him and was really interested. And we hear that he was grieved, but he went along with the daughter's wishes because he didn't want to lose respect. So he finds himself torn, and he can make a decision. He can do the just thing, but it'll make him look even more stupid, and he's not prepared to do that. Yeah. And it raises for us the question of, are we prepared to make ourselves look foolish or to lose face amongst our family and peers for the sake of the gospel? The choices for the kingdom or choices for saving face. And the way we speak about Jesus and the way we speak about the gospel and in our day-to-day life, it can raise eyebrows and it can cause rejection. And so, we're placed in this position. We've got this fantastic news to share, but are we game to?
And it is fantastic news, isn't it? I mean, we haven't mentioned the Ephesians reading yet, but that, it's a beautiful picture of what life in God is like, isn't it?
Yeah.
And all of those wonderful blessing kind of words and being included and embraced by God. So we have great stuff to tell, a great story to tell.
Yeah.
But it can be. I mean, I know I have at times been reluctant to say, well, actually I'm a Christian, or actually I don't agree with what you're saying or doing, because of, you think of the cost of it, and the sort of dishonour that Herod would have been worried about is perhaps escalated in the time that he lived, when honour and shame were almost like the currency of the time, weren't they? So to lose face is a really enormous thing. But it was a foolish kind of promise to make in the first place, wasn't it? So you kind of wonder, well, are you really shamed by not keeping a ridiculous offer like that?
Yeah.
So that's part of it. But it's also, we can contrast it with the the reading from 2 Samuel, where David has no shame in what he's doing. He is in his little, you get the impression it's just a very little piece of linen that he has girding his loins, dancing up and down and jumping and whirling and carrying on with all his might. Certainly in the part of the story that we get in the lectionary, David is completely abandoned to joy, and the joy of welcoming the ark, which represents God's presence, doesn't it? The joy of welcoming that into the city. He does that with complete and utter abandon. So I don't know how many of us are going to ever be that completely captured by the joy that we might have, but some of us may. You never know.
Oh, it's lovely when you see children in church dance freely to the music. I just love that. Yeah, the confidence of children just to be themselves. It's magnificent.
Yes, it's gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah.
It would be nice to be able to keep that, but we put lots of layers on things, don't we, about how we think we should behave, and we don't want to embarrass ourselves and other people. So
and fear gets in the way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We fear rejection, we fear judgment. Yeah. And in the Samuel reading, we don't actually get it in the lectionary, but there's this little bit where the oxen rock the ark, and this fella tries to steady the ark, and God smites the person in some way, not to touch the ark. And David became afraid and sent the ark off for someone's safekeeping because he was really worried. And then we pick the reading up when David's got the ark back again, because he's seen that things have actually gone all right. So even David was afraid at times.
Yes.
And, it's human to have fear.
Yeah.
And the message of Jesus' love is, regardless of that, we're still loved.
Yes. And
we're still embraced in God's family. I love that language in Ephesians of being heirs. That's family. That's blood. You don't ever get cast out of that, regardless of, what things you've not done or not said or said. You're still God's beloved. And I'm always reminded of the baptism of Jesus. You are my beloved, with you I am well pleased.
Yeah. And
Mark's gospel starts off with that, and I think that holds the reader all the way through.
Yeah, I think so. And when you have the confidence of that, or the strength of that to support you, then that does help you to act out of love and kindness and goodness, rather than out of fear, doesn't it? So where we might not react, hopefully, in the way that Herod did, out of worry about ourselves. And it's not because we are worried about how God is going to treat us. So we have to do the right thing and we have to behave this way because there are rules that we have to follow. It's because we feel caught up in this great love and embraced in this great family. And when you have that kind of a sense, you want to include other people in it. You don't want to just keep it for yourself, do you? A family.
Well, that's
grows.
Yeah. It's not something you keep locked up in your head. It's something you actually have to live out.
Yes.
And include in all engagements with people wherever you are. Yeah. And look, it doesn't mean to say we don't get frightened or afraid, but that God gives us the courage to do the right thing or the just thing in spite of our fear. So courage is acting despite the fear. It's not doing the foolish thing necessarily.
No. Yeah. And to know that when you do make a mistake, when you do act out of fear instead of love, then you are embraced still, and that there's a home to go to and a path to be on that you can return to. It doesn't mean that we ignore the things that we do wrong. That doesn't mean that we can't grow and change, but we don't have to beat ourselves up about it. We're loved and we move on.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing to see that when people actually get the aha that, you know, despite all the things that I've stuffed up with, I'm still a child of God.
Yeah.
It's and that's the joy of the gospel, I think.
Absolutely.
You know, seeing other people experience God's grace and God's salvation. Yeah. And that Ephesians reading, there's a repeat, the praise of God's glory. Like, God's glory shines, but it also shines in the things we do and enable. Yeah. So yeah, I find it all very exciting. So despite the stern warning that we get of the head on the plate, because in a way sometimes we do get served up for, you know, stepping against what is expected and you know, the norm, the status quo of things. You know, I'm starting to buy clothes that I know have not come from any slave labour, so there's transparent employment lines.
Yep.
Or I buy second-hand clothes. So, you know, we can make little changes that actually make a difference.
Yes.
And
Yes, you're right. And all kinds of things around justice. And in this NAIDOC week, you know, I'm trying to learn more and more about our First Nations people and how to be a good ally of First Nations people and LGBTQI people and, you know, all kinds of people who've been marginalised. Because, you know, it's a continual learning process, isn't it? And continually trying to invite people into a life of love and justice and hope.
Yep. And part of that, I think, is educating ourselves.
Yeah.
So, I'm reading Denise Champion's book, Anadij, which translates roughly to her language of that's how it is.
Okay. Yeah.
So Indigenous spirituality, that's the way it is. Yeah.
That's good.
Hopefully I can share some more about that another time.
Yes. Yep. We look forward to it.
Yeah. So we look forward to hearing the disciples coming back from their mission.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Annette.
Thanks, Karen.